And as this important decision is made by the Trump campaign and Hillary Clinton continues to decide on who she'll choose as her running mate, many voters are not paying much attention to the process. Let's talk more about that with John Johnson with Edgeworth Economics and the author of the book, Everydata.
When you look at the historic record on this and you look at the polling questions about vice presidential selections, in the most recent polls, less than 1% of voters who were surveyed said that the vice presidential pick will actually matter for their vote. The polls also suggest that people vote for the top of the ticket. So is it the case that there's no one for whom the vice president choice matters? It can, but historically it really hasn't been as big of a deal as people tend to think it is, at least in the views of the voters.
Seems like a lot of people don't have any idea who's up for the VP slot or who the top runners may be.
Absolutely. Well, Mike Pence, for example, in the surveys last week, when people were asked, 62% of voters did not know if they had a favorable or unfavorable impression of him nationally. It's actually the same if you look at some of the leading candidates for Hillary Clinton's pick, Cory Booker, Tim Kaine. A majority of Americans really don't have any opinion of these people at all. So for those of us in the D.C. area who sort of are used to sort of politics, it can be surprising, but a lot of these are relatively unknown people on a national stage.
Now, people are obviously, as you said, looking to the top of the ticket, but why should they do their research on a VP?
There are some reasons to think about it. So first of all, it obviously could say something about the views of the presidential candidate. One of the particular demographics that Mike Pence is well known in, for example, is in terms of Tea Party supporters. So he is his highest favorables in the polling generally is amongst those who are supporters of the Tea Party. So that could be a key voting bloc. Actually, one of the other interesting things is if you look, the campaigns and the media actually do strategically pay attention and act on these things. So here's a good historic example. In 2008, candidate Obama and his campaign were making a play for several states that maybe weren't traditionally Democratic, including Alaska. But when John McCain announced Governor Sarah Palin as his running mate, the Obama campaign pulled all of their funding and ads out of Alaska. So there's this strategic reason to watch for these things because the campaigns will respond accordingly.
A lot of people are saying this election is unlike anything we've seen in the past. So how important will VP be here?
Well, it does depend. It could be different, particularly because, especially on the Republican side, there is a sense of, can Trump galvanize sort of the Republican Party behind him? And given that Pence is more of an establishment conservative candidate, that could be really important. The other thing is we saw this week a whole slew of polls in battleground states, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all which are showing sort of either statistical ties or potentially some very mixed results as to whether Trump or Clinton is leading. So as we've talked about a few times, when you have an election that is going to hinge on a few key states, the ability of the vice president to go campaign, will they resonate in those states? Everything could make a difference this year.
And that's John Johnson with Edgeworth Economics and the author of the book Everydata joining us on Skype. And by the way, Donald Trump right now